Welcome to Talks at Google. I'm Jennifer Van Fossen, and today we are so lucky to have a group of actors and actresses with us from Tully. Please join me on stage. We have Charlize Theron, Mackenzie Davis, Ron Livingston, and director Jason Reitman. We are so glad to have you all here with us today. Thank you for joining us. We really are. Well, I saw the film last week with my husband, and gosh, there were so many things that I could relate to. Being a parent, being a mom, and the one thing that struck me in particular is there's this one scene, Charlize, where your character Marlo is pulling into the parking lot and trying to act like everything is great and okay, and she's struggling with her kids, and she walks in, I think it's to the principal, and says, it's just such a blessing.
Yeah.
And this really is for all of you, but I'd love to start off just by tell us about the importance of that authenticity in the characters that you have in this film.
I mean, I guess I don't want to speak for all of us, but I will.
If I must.
I mean, we definitely all discussed just how raw and honest this portrayal of parenthood that is definitely not something that I've ever read in a script. And in my, over 20 years of doing this, I might have partaken in that false portrayal of motherhood on film. I think there was something about this that was just so, and maybe it's also different now that I have kids. I can't imagine making this film before I had kids because there was so much of this that I could just feel inside my own bones. And through all the horror of the truth of what it takes to be a parent, there's this utter beauty that comes with it. And I think that's what definitely drew me to it. I mean, Jason was a really negative part of deciding to do this film. But the story really,
It just won you over.
Yeah, it was like the story's good enough that I can deal with Jason again.
Yeah, so
so brave.
Yeah, nobody knows how brave I am.
Well, to that point of dealing with Jason again, this is your third film in what some have said is even sort of a trilogy, Jason, with Juno and Young Adult, which you did with Charlize, and
It's like Lord of the Rings.
just like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's important to you about these three films and the sequence of them together?
I mean, when I met Diablo over a decade ago now, I don't think I could have ever guessed that we were starting this trajectory with each other, that we were going to be in a kind of storytelling marriage. And now, of course, I just hope it continues, for the rest of our lives, and that we keep on making movies like this. I think.
Remember your anniversary? Because that's a big part of it.
Oh, fuck. I blew it already. I remember the first time we met. We met at this place called the Father's Daughter Inn over on Fairfax near the Grove, and they have a bar in there, and she ordered a dirty martini, I ordered a Diet Coke, and it was just very on par for our relationship going forward. But, Juno was a movie about growing up too fast, and Young Adult was a movie about growing up a little too slow. And this is a movie about that moment when you realize that you have to grow up, and you have to turn a chapter on your life and create room so that your child can occupy the space that you were occupying.
Yeah. And tell us a little bit more about, what attracts you to this and to Diablo's writing.
It's funny, Charlize, Diablo, and I are all around the same age, and although we came from different places, there's some sort of connective tissue that when Diablo writes a script, she's articulating things that we've all been feeling, and there's something that Diablo does really well, where she writes about an idea that we can all relate to, which is not knowing where you're supposed to be in the arc of your life. I think we all often have this feeling like, am I behind? Am I ahead? Am I doing this at the right time? What was I supposed to do by now at this age? whether it's work, with family, have you bought a house yet? Have you done this or that? And so much of her writing is about that, and for whatever reason, I think it connects all of us.
Yeah. So to that point, I'd love to speak to the dynamic between the two characters of Marlo and of Tully, Mackenzie, which you play, and the dynamics that you explore in those relationships between women, right? There's episodes of judgment or younger self versus older self kind of feeling. So tell me about the dynamic between those two women.
I mean, it was an interesting role to play because of the space that it occupied in somebody else's life, and trying to find out how you can be your own sort of shoulder to cry on and support system without becoming like a really malevolent force in that person's life. I don't know, I thought it was, I mean, I think we'll just reiterate the same things over and over, but like just a really honest approach to how lovely and shitty it can be to be female. And I haven't had kids, but I have been a woman my whole life, and there were so many things that it felt like Diablo was telling secrets from my own life, and you were like, how do you know that? And yeah, I just thought it was like a lovely female friendship that was really honest and not, sugary sweet. But do you want to say anything?
I mean, having been the younger one in the relationship. No, you said it so beautifully. I totally agree with you. I mean, I think Diablo doesn't know how to not write honestly, and I think she loves that space where we all live, whether you're a woman or a man, that's maybe not so pretty. And I know for myself, I'm fascinated by that space. And so to have a writer and a filmmaker who really wants to go and explore that space, it's heaven to get a job like that, where, all of us get to live in the skin of real people who are going through maybe not so nice things and maybe are not behaving in the best possible ways that they could in those moments, but it's human, and it's exploring that human condition, and I love that.
Another moment I remember from the film is there's an episode in a coffee shop where you are clearly very, very pregnant.
Yeah.
And you're ordering a decaf.
How
and
dare
yet,
I? How dare
and yet
I?
you're facing all this judgment from this woman who's giving you sort of dirty looks. And
Yeah.
can you talk about that judgmental part that you sort of explore there, that women do face pretty constantly in society?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that we definitely live in a world where we're just so hard, especially on parents, because all of a sudden they're carrying this other little human. And I feel like the world almost feels like they can step in and have a judgment because it's not really you, it's that little person that they don't even know that's living inside of you. And I definitely have been I didn't have pregnancies myself, but just, with my adopted kids, like I remember a mom pulling me aside and she was like, you should not be using formula, and I can hook you up with some real breast milk. And it was just like, oh, and my kids are fine as of right now. They're still good. They're doing okay on the formula.
So I'd love to go a little bit deeper on that, because the last movie that I saw you in was Atomic Blonde, right? Very different type of a female character. Yeah, it was a real super kick-ass spy movie, and you have a production company, Denver and Delilah, that was written up in Variety not long ago for really backing those powerful female-centric stories. So can you talk a little bit about how you pick your roles and how your company decides on its projects?
Yeah, we have a cool little thing going on with Denver and Delilah. We're definitely fortunate enough to be in a place where we do have a little bit more of a luxury, where we can greenlight things that might not get greenlit. A film like Atomic Blonde very easily could have, been a male-driven film, and to be able to have a little bit of that, to be in that position where you can actually take a film like that and get a studio like Universal to back it, that's a really nice place to be in, and I don't ever take that for granted. You know, we're also we do a lot of television and film, and so we're really trying to not just with female stories, but really paying attention to, you know, bringing women into the positions that they're just very strong in right now. And so we have a lot of projects that are maybe not directed by females, but they're all female producers, and so I think being in that position where you can kind of put your foot down, and you know, I was just on a film that we produced, and I walked on, and our sound department didn't have one woman on it, and we had a bunch of female actresses on it, and I was like, guys, what? No, like, we need a lady here to be dealing with the bra straps, like. It's just a nice place to be in, and for me as an actor, it's not necessarily always so that I can star in it. It's nice that I can kind of take ownership and guide a little bit of the stuff that I do want to explore. Mm-hmm. That you do get tired of kind of waiting around for a filmmaker or a writer to come around and hand you something like that, so you can kind of step in and develop things that you're interested in, and I love that. And I like that I can be as diverse as I want to be, and that I think is one of the hardest things, or was for me in my career. You know, you have garnered some success in some genre, and then that's all everybody wants you to do. Mm-hmm. And having a production company gets me to do different things and kind of not regurgitate the same thing over and over and over.
Yeah, that's that seeking of diversity in creativity and thought and female-centric is something we really value at Google, and I do on my team as well, so thank you.
Oh, cool.
Ron,
Yes.
you're from Iowa.
I am.
And this is personally important to me because my husband's in the audience, and he's from Iowa as well, so shout out to the Hawkeyes.
Go Hawks.
You have two daughters.
I
so tell us from a male perspective, like, so what's important to you about this title? And Jason, I know you have a daughter as well, I believe, yeah? So I'd love to hear from y'all about what's important to you about the female empowerment from your perspective too. And Drew is Marlo's husband in the title.
Yeah, you know, obviously, because I'm raising two girls to enter into the world, I'd like the world to be a welcoming and you know, nice place for them to be. Mm-hmm. And I want them to be valued, and I want them to be empowered, and I want them to feel strong. They're pretty strong right now, so I feel really good about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the rest of the stuff, I guess we'll get to. What I like about this, the way that this setup is, and you talked about the authenticity, is I feel like there's a sort of a husband mold of like what husbands do in the child rearing area, and in real life the bar is a lot lower than what you see in the movies. In the movies, it's like we kind of give them a lot of the benefit of the doubt and credit, and you know, so in this character, it's really he's contributing closer to what husbands generally actually contribute. And think they're doing a great job, you know? So, you know, I don't know how that relates to the female empowerment element overall, but, you know, it's a wife part. I'm playing a wife part is what they would call it. And it's kind of great that it's flipped around, because I know my wife has played a lot of wife parts. And made some wonderful things out of them. Mm-hmm. So that was a really good challenge of like, okay, I got to take this guy who's in a supportive, functioning role and figure out like, well, how can we make it real?
Great. Anything you would add there, Jason?
I mean, the funny thing is that I'd really like to make a movie for my daughter, but I've made 8 movies so far, and she hasn't seen any of them because they're all rated R or about teen pregnancy. So I have a lot of conversations waiting for me.
Okay, got it. Another thing I'd like to touch on with y'all is you've mentioned a little bit of this, Charlize. You've both done sort of small screen and big screen work, and in my role here at Google, I work quite a bit with the film studios and also the broadcasters. So I think it's interesting what's going on between small and big screen these days, and also I think it's really important that these kind of stories make it to the big screen still, and it's not just a world of sequels and blockbusters. So I thought maybe y'all could talk a
Though
little
this
bit.
is a trilogy.
Yes, that's true. Well, that's true. But with unique characters, yeah. So I'd love to just talk about how do we encourage and make sure that these types of stories are told on the big screen as well.
I mean, the best way to do it is to make them.
Good start.
I mean, that's, I think, the first step, and that's, thank God you're doing that. I don't really feel that there's that much of a difference. The camera's the same size in any case, but whether it's a big screen or a small screen, that stuff all comes later. I feel like when, you're probably maybe thinking about that, but when I show up to work, it's, I'm not thinking about the screen. And I think people have a great relationship. I feel like the difference, and people have some pretty big screens in their houses now too.
It's true.
And there's going to be a lot of people who watch this on,
Yeah.
they'll download it or
Their phone.
Yeah, or they'll pirate it or something. Yeah, exactly. To me, I think it's more of a thing of when the big screen still has that place for, like, this is an event. We're going to give this our evening. We're going to get out of our house. We're going to go sit down, buy expensive popcorn, and we're locked into this. We can't flip the channel if we don't like it. We can walk out, but that's a very dramatic thing. So it's nice that we're giving adult fare, I guess, if you're an adult.
So it's not so much about the screen then, it's about the projects getting made and the stories being told regardless of.
I hope we hold on to the collective experience. That's the important thing. I think there's a lot of conversations about screens and sound, and that's all well and good. It's nice, although I find I go to the movies all the time and I think, man, why won't they turn this up? I wish they would play movies louder in theaters and change the bulbs and the projectors more often, but I'm also a nerd. But what I think is important is the collective experience. Is you go to the movies, you're with a bunch of strangers, and you're all laughing together, or you're all crying together, you're all being moved together, you're all realizing something together. And that is a very rare experience. I think it's an important experience. It certainly has been throughout my childhood. I love movies. I try to go to the movies as many times a week as possible. But, and by the way, I love television. And I watch a lot and I binge a lot as well. I think it's a great form of entertainment. What I'd hate to lose, though, is the collective experience that doesn't only happen for movies like Black Panther, but also happens for tiny movies that can really change minds and move us. Because there's something different about watching a movie at home alone and having that experience, which is moving, but it's alone, and having it as a community with people you don't know. You all showed up at this theater from maybe all parts of the city. You all come from different lives. And now you're all laughing together. And I think the thing that I fear losing the most is that.
That's a great point. So if the audience wants to kind of get ready, I think we're going to do a little bit of Q&A if you guys want to get ready for that. And I'm curious, Jason, like, is there a movie that was like that for you? Like, can you think back?
The movie theater experience?
Yeah, that collective
there's
experience
100, but
yeah.
I remember lining up to see Pulp Fiction. And I was in high school, and that was one of the great nights of my life. I think about that night the way that people think about, lining up for some show at CBGB's in the 70s or something. Like it just that was a life changer.
Yeah. How about the rest of you? Can you think of a title that was really moving?
I was sharing this with Jason, and I think my friend is here, who's a producer on this too. Beth Kono and I went to go see Shape of Water, and we're both kind of dead inside as people. We have a lot of emotion. And I started crying so uncontrollably. And I was literally like, oh my God, this is so embarrassing. And then I just looked over and she was crying and I was like, thank you. Thank you. I'm not a weirdo. But it's like Jason said, like I could have never experienced that at home, and it's nice to have that conversation after too, right? Like the credits start rolling, and like you start talking about it collectively, and there's something nice about that. And I do think like sometimes people have experiences, they watch films at home and they don't have the same experience than you do when you're in that theater with other people. Something happens. Maybe it's expensive popcorn, I don't know. But something definitely happens. For me, it did.
Yeah.
I'm not dead, turns out.
Okay.
I saw Star Wars as a 5th grader, and it kind of rocked my world. Not only just the spectacle and the way it just kind of exploded. There wasn't anything like that before, and then all of a sudden there was. But I feel like all the mythical stuff. It's like a primer in Eastern philosophy, in like Taoism, basically, and Zen, and that has lasting effects. I think it's cheesy to say, well, I think it changed my life, but it had to have.
Star Wars changed your life.
Star Wars changed my life.
I get it.
This is not like that at all. My local movie theater is this really old, dingy place, and I think it's where they shoot those like night vision examples where they do screeners of scary movies, and people are like pouring their popcorn up because they're so scared. And I saw it there, one that just came out, and I had to wait in line that wrapped around the block, and it was like a 30-minute wait, and then it was just like 11 to 17-year-olds, and we all watched it together, and it felt like religious, where everybody like screamed at the same time, and then you turn to the stranger and be like, oh, it was so fun to be in that space again, and it just reminds you like you don't, because all you get at home is sort of like, but not the full like cathartic scream and communal energy.
Yeah, there's
thing.
something about a scary movie when the person next to you is scared.
Yeah.
The energy transfers.
Yes.
And
you do the like scream to laugh ratio is on par, and it's so fun and weird. Just be like, I don't know.
So shall we open it up now?
Thank you all so much for coming. I was able to watch the film earlier today, and while I'd like to think that the magic of Diablo's script was part of this, I'm really curious for Mackenzie and Charlize. It has I don't want to spoiler alert, but it has such an unusual twist at the end. I was not expecting it, and I just thought you two were so separate but then so connected. How did you develop that? Because that magic just wasn't in the script.
We slept with each other.
And it was awkward at first, but then it just like broke down this barrier right away.
It helped.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
To know someone's body like that is.
Especially that body. There's a lot to explore there. I've been very lucky. Jason is really, really good at casting, obviously. No, but seriously, he's just so good at casting. I remember when we did Young Adult together, he only brought up one name, and it was Patton Oswalt. And I didn't know who Patton Oswalt was, so I was a little bit like, ooh, who's this? And then he showed me some stuff, and I was like, really? And then we got on set, and it was like, oh, God, you just see something. And so this time around, it was the same thing. The only name that was ever brought up was Mackenzie. And there, I mean, for me, when I read the script, because it was so, intricate, this relationship between us, I definitely read it in that sense, And so I was like, oh, it's going to be interesting. Like, what do you do with this? And Mackenzie showed up, and it was just so beautifully weird and odd, and pretty much from the moment that I met her, I was just like this. And so it was perfect for the film. And then she ends up, like, she's a cool girl, so it was nice to be on set with her and to share this experience with her. You're welcome.
Yeah, I feel like we didn't plan anything out too much. We just talked a bit about I remember that breakfast that we had in that weird hotel in the Sutton Hotel where we just talked about like getting older in a really normal but way, like, I don't know, we have the same body type and like what it's like to be used to the way your body behaves for your whole life and then what happens when it starts behaving in a different way. And just simple things that can kind of bond you to someone quite easily and make you, I don't know, there's like certain, this sounds so like something that Cosmopolitan magazine would say, but there are something like certain like secrets of being female that can make you feel very close to someone immediately without needing to like, you know, map out a whole plan right away, I think.
She's also one of the funniest people I've ever been around.
Oh,
and so that's just so disarming. And I think instantly we really connected on that. I was just like, every time I was around her, I was like, because I was not the funnest person on the shoot. I kind of dealt with depression for the first time in my life, and my body was just not happy, and my mind wasn't happy, and my soul wasn't happy, and being around her was just real joy. And I think I definitely got close, whether she liked it or not, I got close to her through that. I was very happy when Ron, I was happy when you were there too.
Okay, it was okay.
I was happy when you were there too.
Sure.
In a different way.
Yeah.
I love
Different
Ron.
body type.
Different body. You don't know what it's like.
Ron is, by the way, the nicest person you will ever meet on the face of the earth, hands down. Way nicer than you. So I'll just point out you guys' best.
Yeah, as foils.
Yes.
Go ahead, Emma.
Thank you guys for being here. I'm just curious, was it hard to get this movie made, given that it's a movie about motherhood and being a new parent and multiple kids? Was this a hard one to pitch, or do you feel like there's an appetite for that right now, given how much we're exploring motherhood and you're seeing it more in shows than in films?
I don't think they're traditionally not easy to get financed, and I don't think they're. I have not heard of any studio out there saying, you know what, let's look for more real human drama, particularly female human drama. That's, although you're right, there's a lot more of that happening in television now. I think, frankly, you know, a company called Braun Studios up in Vancouver financed this film. And they came in early, and they came in strong. They liked the script. They loved this cast, clearly. And they backed the film, and they were kind of amazing start to finish. There was never any kind of, I never felt them trying to bend it into something that it wasn't. And the people that were already big fans of Juno and Young Adult, they got the tone of what we wanted to do, and we got it made. But I feel lucky about that. I think we're very fortunate that we got to get this film made. I think there's a lot of films like that are trying to get made that are not getting the financing. If only we were at a company with a limitless amount of funds that could invest into movies of tomorrow. I would think if they really cared about women, they would start investing money into female-driven independent film. Huh.
I like that.
My question goes to Jason because I'm an aspiring filmmaker, and I haven't got a chance to see the movie yet because it's released on May 4th. May the force be with you, by the way.
Damn.
Anyway, so
It's within the Star Wars universe.
yeah, pretty much.
It's a Tolkien crossover.
Yes. I'm just really curious to know what your directing process is like from getting the script in your hands to development, pre-production, post-production to distribution. How much was changed? What was left in? What was left out? And through those changes, how did you define the characters from point A to point B? And what was it like to pick out the color palette for cinematography and choosing the appropriate lenses to tell the story? I'm sorry.
These are all great questions. It's a lot of them, and I think if I were to answer all of that, it would take a while, and I'm going to. So, I'll just say a couple brief things. One, what's unique about Diablo is that she is a pure writer and does not use index cards or treatments. She has an idea. She called me at one point and said, I have this idea for a movie, and she kind of told it to me in 2 sentences. And then 6 weeks later, she had a screenplay. And it was a first draft, but it was also our shooting draft. And she just writes. She sits down and starts with the first scene, then the second scene, and she lets the movie tell her what it's going to be. And that's how she's written all her films. And as another writer, it's infuriating. I mean, it took me 7 years to write Up in the Air. I don't know how she does it. But her screenplays are very clear on the page. And it's not to say that they're loaded with long paragraphs of detail. They're very succinct. They're very short. They're 100-page scripts. But you can't help but read it and know what she's saying and what she's referring to. I feel like it's my job not to tell the actors how to do it. It's to find people who I think have connective tissue with the characters on the page. Not that they're the same human being, but there's something inside them that connects them to this character that I know is going to come to life. And then they bring it to life, and I'm there to kind of help shape and keep us all within kind of one tonal world. But it's up to them, and we don't rehearse. You know, and it's funny you kind of brought that up. We had one lunch before we went. Because I'm lucky, I get to work with brilliant actors. And I know on the day, we're gonna find it. And we're gonna find it over a few takes, or maybe a few more takes, but it's not gonna be anything crazy. And when that magic happens, when two really talented actors suddenly connect and have chemistry, and the lines come to life, there's nothing like it in the world. I mean, it's really an exciting thing to watch happen live, and when it happens, I want the cameras to be on. I don't want to be in rehearsal studio. So that's a little bit of how the process was, and that certainly is how this movie came together.
I think we have one more question, and then we'll wrap up.
So Charlize Theron, I think of you both as really funny people who play characters with a lot of pain, but really funny characters with a lot of pain. And but you also do some sort of wackier characters, and I'm sort of curious, as artists and performers, do you feel like that balance is important, or do you lean one way or the other, that it's important to you to play characters who have some sort of non-comedic, painful depth?
Oh, that's a great question.
You want to take that, or?
I can go after you.
All right. You know what, I want to assume my male privilege to go first. No,
I'm handing it to
you. It's like I think the pain is, everybody has pain, and so if it's useful to bring it to the thing, then that's great. As far as the wacky, I think I'm just kind of goofy. You know, there's an element of me that's kind of goofy, and there was 5 years when I was trying to be a matinee idol, and wear the leather jacket, like I have one now, and it was just really hard not to make a face, and because there's something about it that if it strikes me as a little silly, and then that's the part that I like about it, is like, oh, okay, what's the silly part? But I think it's all the same. You know what I mean? It's like there's people who are only in pain or only trying to be funny tend to be really infuriating people to hang out with. So you just throw it all together and see what comes out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Ron. I don't believe that people are only one thing. I think that's also what makes this writing feel so great, because it deals with some very serious and hard subject matter, but through real people. And I think real people, I think we can all relate to that. I've had shitloads of tragedy, but nobody is just that one thing. And I think a lot of people who have had a lot of tragedy in their life tend to veer more towards the silly and the lightheartedness of it in order to survive. I mean, this is why I'm dead inside. Didn't work for me. But I think there's a sense of humor about this that feels very real. That's not just a joke for the sake of a joke or to be funny. I think a lot of the humor of this film comes from very real places. And I know for myself, raising my kids, it is a horror movie and a comedy with Will Ferrell and Star Wars. It's everything. It's literally every day I'm like, I don't know what movie we're in today, but can't wait to go on the ride, see where it lands. I don't know. Is that?
That was a great
That was a
answer.
bullshit.
I thought it was great.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm satisfied.
I don't know.
Thank you.
You just do what he says, basically. That's really what happens.
Me personally, or just?
No, what Jason, what
Yeah. We've been waiting for you to.
yes, I'm waiting for you to tell me how to respond.
Reminder, May 4th, everyone please take your friends, go see Tully in theaters. Thank you so much for
you.
making this
Thanks
film
for
and
having
being
us.
here today.
Well,
All right.